what do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube.
Welcome to Couch in the Rube, our Sunday afternoon show. Brought to you by our friends at Muskox Quality Flannels. It is November. It is flannel season. If you do not have a Muskox flannel yet, what are you waiting on? I'm telling you, the comfort, the look, the durability, the softness. You will love how you look and feel in a Muskox flannel. Go to gomuskox.com, and you can use the promo code HOFF, H-O-F-F, for $15 off your Muskox flannel purchase and ride in style and comfort into the holiday season. Also, great gift if you're looking to, get the dude in your life or the your dad or your brother or your son or just yourself, a great Christmas gift. A Muskox flannel is a great way to go. Again, gomuskox.com. Jason, how you doing, brother?
I'm never going to financially recover from this.
What's up, buddy? Yeah, I don't know what we're doing here on a football Sunday around 1 o'clock, but I guess, the Lions having a bye week has something to do with it. Now, this isn't going to be a reoccurring thing, though, because I do love my football Sundays. Just because the Detroit Lions do not play does not mean I do not love my football Sundays.
So, a little schedule update for people who might be, and again, for most of our audience, more than 90% who download us and watch us later or whatever, schedule changes are probably not don't matter all that much. We do appreciate our live folks, though. People get into it, and we hop around a little bit. This Sunday and maybe the Sunday after Thanksgiving when the Lions don't play would be the two Sundays we might do this.
That's it.
Otherwise, there will be some more afternoon shows. We've had just some changes in just schedules in our lives work-wise that make the evenings a little more difficult and the afternoons a little bit better. So we are going to switch to a little bit more afternoon, probably maybe even like a Friday morning. We'll see. But Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday.
We'll do our best to let you guys know.
Yeah, and you will get into a rhythm again. It's just I know this is frustrating for some people who I am flattered that our schedule matters to people. Like, that is cool as hell.
Yes.
Because,
but if this operation could pay all of the bills, I would do the show whenever the fuck you guys wanted us to. But unfortunately, we can't. So
we have to do some other shows, right?
We do, yeah.
Yeah. Or other things. Well, going to be a good hot take day, though. I think some really good stuff from our listeners. Yeah, no, I
team morale turned around after that big W yesterday.
It's a combination of good things to talk about, including Dominic takes some hard swings at me that we're going to get into too.
Good,
so yeah,
about time, huh?
Usually deserved, absolutely.
Can't wait to read those. Hopefully, I don't fuck those up.
All right, do you want to begin with your first hot take?
Yeah, we don't have enough time for all of that.
I didn't watch much of the game yesterday. I did read your coverage this morning, Graham. Good job on making that shit show interesting. Thank you. I do feel bad for the players. I feel that they have given their heart and soul to put into this to try to make this somewhat respectable. But the coaching staff, I just can't get over these guys and the mistakes that are made. Even I don't care if these guys are third, fourth, whatever string. These guys have played football before. So they're not being coached properly, right? And Sam Leavitt not starting. I mean, what are we doing here? Does he not want to start? I mean, I can't tell, Graham, if Harlan Barnett is a great head coach for Michigan State right now, because it's so bad that anyone you get, if you can't get Urban Meyer and you get one of the other guys you don't really want, they'll make it look like, well, shit, he's doing something better than Harlan Barnett. Or is it a bummer of what Harlan Barnett's doing? Because it's I got to say, Graham, I know that you think he's a great guy. He's in the Matt Shepard Hall of Fame. But on the sidelines, he doesn't even look like he knows what he's doing. And it just bothers me. And that's why I can't sit down and tune in on a Saturday for 4 hours anymore. I'm sorry. Call me whatever fan you want. I just can't get excited about it when I see poor coaching like that.
So I'm gonna stick up for Harlan Barnett here, and sort of just a counterpoint. And this is not to say that excellent. This is not to say that it has been a master full coaching job entirely. But I do think the most impressive thing about this season is the way they've kept this group together. When I thought there would be much larger defections,
sure,
and that took for a while handling things a little different than he would ideally do it. It took spending a couple weeks meeting with everybody individually when maybe there were some other organizational things that should have been put in place, and I think he realized they needed to course correct a little. He didn't start some key guys yesterday because they've been late to something or whatever. Like and you see a result. I also don't know that this coaching staff entirely would be his coaching staff if he were the head guy. I'm not saying he's getting the head job. What I'm saying is Harlan Barnett was thrown into a staff he didn't pick, into a group he's running that probably has 3 or 4 guys who think they probably should have been the head coach right now. And I'm just saying, so that would be the defense of I'm
talking
everything.
about on the sidelines, though. I understand if these wouldn't be his guys. I don't know if you give him the most elite guys in college football at those positions, but you don't want to shit on the guy because he does seem like a nice guy, but I'm sorry. If you're going to be roaming the sidelines like that, it just doesn't look natural.
They won the game yesterday.
They did.
That's a big thing. And
I thought for sure they were going to lose that at the end, but
it was.
I'm glad they won that.
I've gotten used to having a plan B on the quick takes, and I was like, all right, let's. And I when they got up 20-10, I was like, do I need to do this or what are we doing here? It was cool to be in that locker room yesterday because there was a joy that you can only, I think, that those guys can only feel when you've been through some shit. You know what I mean? It wasn't just even like a we won happiness that they had. It was like, holy crap, that feels good. And you like Jaden Mangum was really he could not, he was uncontrollably beaming and smiling. It was really interesting. Like you'd ask him anything, it wasn't even that fun a question. his smile was like you could just tell for all those guys what a relief it was and how good it felt. And the same for Harlan Barnett, who, by the way, I will have a profile on this week, pretty early this week,
so
middle
that's
of the week.
Why you have nice things to say about Harlan.
I don't think he listens to this show. I like Harlan Barnett personally. I think he's got a good, interesting story.
Who doesn't? But we always have to preface shit with a guy that stinks by saying he's a great guy.
No, I grade them every week. His wife reads my grades every week, and I have given them a 0 sometimes for coaching, right? So it's not like I'm not going to be unfair and real. She's still reading. Yeah, okay. She's still reading. She's look, they've been through it. They've been around a lot of places. It'll be a fun story to get into as I put together. I will say, and I'll piggyback something you said in my first hot take. I didn't agree with not starting Sam Leavitt. I thought that would have been the move I would have made. I respected them not giving up on Katin Hauser. I mean, I understand that a little bit. I respected the idea to play them both. I didn't hate the idea that you've got a plan where it was 2 possessions, 1 guy, then the next guy comes in. And so even though it was the beginning of the 4th quarter, the true freshman then comes in a key spot. Like they stuck with that. It wasn't like, okay, this is getting dicey. You're staying with Katin Hauser. I wish they would have played more Sam Leavitt. Because if I'm Sam Leavitt right now, I'm shutting it down. Because he's played 4 games. The next time he steps on the field, this year counts as a year of eligibility. And he may be a guy, you don't have to sit out when you transfer anyway. He may be a guy that doesn't need this extra year. He may be able to get to the pros in 4 regular years of college. But at a position that's that competitive, where injuries can happen, where the best guys who make it in the NFL are guys who usually have a number of college starts under their belt. And for a guy who's going to have to learn a new offense next year, as be it whoever's the head coach, whether he's at Michigan State or whether he goes somewhere else, I would want to give myself the flexibility of that year over maybe playing 6 more drives this season. The conversation that needs to be had is how much am I going to play the last 3 games before I make that decision? Because if it's 2 drives a game, which it was yesterday, 1 in your own goal line and 1 that you threw 1 pass and it's a 25-yard touchdown. I only threw 2 passes in the whole game. He almost caught a pass. And that's not enough. That's not enough over 3 games for it to be worth the year I'm losing when I could get that year back. If I'm going to play, if you're going to do like 2 possessions on, 2 possessions off, and I'm going to play half the game, or if I'm going to get a start, that's something I need to factor in. The other thing, if you're Michigan State, if you've got any shot to beat Ohio State, I think it's probably with Sam Leavitt at quarterback. He may be more prone to, he may make a freshman mistake that Hauser's slightly more seasoned in and understanding the offense. I mean, Hauser had a really good grasp yesterday. I give him some credit. When he came in, and that offense really wasn't moving, but he understood at the end of the game, I am not turning the ball over. We're ahead. The defense is playing okay. Their quarterback isn't that good. The best thing I can do is take care of the ball, right? And he had a real grasp of that, and I think they trusted him in that setting. But there's and he had one really nice drive that was a good answer after Nebraska scores a touchdown to go ahead, 75 yards right back down the field. Now, the longest pass play on that drive was Alante Brown and a receiver pass. Still, you went down the field, you answered right away. It was a touchdown pass, a nice play to Christian Fitzpatrick. Like, that was good. I just don't think anything we've seen, though, with the offense with Katin Hauser has enough juice to beat Ohio State on the road. I don't think Sam Leavitt is going to be able to beat Ohio State on the road. I just think to have a fighting chance, you're going to have to score enough.
But why don't you give him a half, Sam Leavitt, that is, to try to figure things out against a terrible Nebraska team? If I'm Sam Leavitt, here's what I'm doing. I'm going, I'm not going to play. Because I don't trust the coaching staff to put together a game plan for Ohio State, because there's a movie ending for this or whatever, a turn, where Sam Leavitt goes, God damn it, I'm going to play. I want to play. Screw the red shirt and all this. We're going to win this game at Ohio State, right? There's that hacky movie ending, but that's not possible, I don't believe, with this coaching staff. So if I'm Sam Leavitt, I'm out.
If I'm getting half the game, if I'm getting 5-6 drives, say,
then we can talk.
Yes, against Ohio State, Indiana, and Penn State.
Yep.
Especially against those sort of situations, and right, getting to play at Ohio State and Columbus. There's value in that, right? Playing against that defense. The value in being on the road. There's value against playing against a great Penn State defense and the Ford Field experience, and there is value in that. If I'm getting the value out of it, and the one thing I would say I would trust if I was Sam Leavitt is the staff did stick to their game plan. So I would just want a different game plan. The staff said they were going to do, and I'm sure all the quarterbacks knew going in, 2 for Hauser, 1 for Leavitt. I just want a different plan. You stuck with it? I'm good with that. Now just give me a different plan, because the thing that will be interesting too is if he does shut it down, it feels sort of like a goodbye. Doesn't mean he is leaving for sure, but it would feel a little bit like it. The flip side of that is he probably thinks Michigan State's going to have a new coach. I need to see who that is. So it's not like you're trying to please the staff that's in place either. There
will be teams knocking on Sam Leavitt's door.
100%.
Yeah.
If I were Sam Leavitt, I would shut it down.
Yep.
And I don't think that gives Michigan State a better chance to win, because I think he's their best chance to have some offensive punch against against 2 of the 3 defenses they're about to play. And Indiana just beat Wisconsin. They haven't quit either, apparently.
But see, you know that. Do the coaching staff, do they know that? Because why give the guy, like you said, let's like 4 drives or something? I mean, I don't know. It's just you got it. Why not play Leavitt at least a full half to see what you have?
Yeah. And
was that going to hurt? I don't know. Yes.
I would have played him more.
Yeah.
I didn't agree with that. I mean, I respect not giving up on Katin Hauser. He's in a tough spot. I think he showed some things, and he may be the only quarterback left on the roster next year, so you don't want to like shit on him either. But I think Leavitt is.
There's no shitting on anyone. Everybody's great. We're just trying to figure stuff out, right?
Yes. All right. What is your second hot take?
Well, speaking of shitty coaching staffs, before the season, Graham, Brian Ferentz, we all know that he was put on a short leash of having to score 26 points a game. We all laughed and said how great it was going to be to follow throughout the season. Well, yesterday, Iowa Northwestern at Wrigley with a shitty field. How many people watched this game? How many people?
I didn't.
Under 900 people. Well, I think barely, maybe a little bit over. But
Iowa's got a lot of fans. Northwestern does not.
Why?
So yeah.
But okay, speaking of Iowa fans, how much long? I understand they're 7-2, but how much longer do Iowa fans put up with Kirk Ferentz? You had to suffer through his son, his nepotism. By the way, there was a nepotism clause in this whole thing, which is fucking hilarious. But are these coaches? And then I'm watching Washington USC, Graham. And I understand. I love offense just as much as the next guy. But what are we doing? Are these defensive coordinators embarrassed at all? When you see an over-under of 84, and by the way, a live over-under was at 101 something.
Yeah.
That's fucking insanity. If you're that bad at your job, I mean, right? It's the equivalent of jerking off on a Zoom call at your job. That's bad. You're not good at it. Right? I mean, if you're a defensive coordinator, how do you sit there and talk to anyone after a display like that? And the coordinators for the Iowa Northwestern game, how do you explain that? Did these guys forget how to fucking play football?
The only, and this is not me trying to spin anything, because this is Power 5 football. But having covered the MAC, I do know there are years where, and you can see it in coaches, like when you recruit a guy, you know how sometimes a guy is as a safety, sometimes he's a running back, sometimes he's under athlete and all this sort of stuff. There are coaches where the best dudes that come out of the class that could go either way wind up on one side of the ball. And if you're the coordinator, you're like, hey, you know, some of those 8 defensive backs who are awesome you have, I would love them at receiver. You know, like, and so that happens sometimes where guys' priorities are a certain way. D'Antonio used to be defense. You know, I covered a guy in Kalamazoo when I was covering Western Michigan who was on offense. And every once in a while they had, you know, they go the other way. They get a Louis Delmas who's at safety, and you're like, oh, that's pretty good. But it does.
But what does that have to do with the 2 worst performances on both ends of the spectrum of college football you can get? Iowa Northwestern, which was, I can't believe anyone would watch that shit show. By the way, the over-under was what, 20-something? And it hit way under. I mean, it's just insanity. And like I said, Washington, Penix, watching Caleb Williams do that. I mean, it is fun for a minute, but don't you want to see a stop every once in a while? Or am I wrong in this one?
No, you're not wrong. I was just blabbering to talk. I don't know why.
Listen, you're good at spinning stuff for sure.
I didn't even want to
You
try
can't
that
spin
one.
out of Iowa Northwestern where the field. Why do we keep playing on baseball fields? I get it. It's Wrigley. We love Wrigley. But who the fuck wants to watch that even if it's great weather in a great stadium?
And what I don't understand is if I'm a mid-major program, I'm scheduling Iowa every year. I watched the team I covered just talked about in 2007, the first time people were upset with Kirk Ferentz, beat them 28-19 on the road, because when you play that kind of team, if you've got offensive weapons, they can't run against you. And I could be lined up on defense, and Iowa's not going to score more than like 25 points. You know what I mean? Like, they're limited in what they can do.
But how is that possible? For a team that's 7-2, they've tried everything they could to make their offense interesting. Yeah. You have guys that are athletes, right?
Well, and I thought
Big Ten football players.
I thought they were going to be better this year offensively. They had some transfers at receiver. Obviously, Cade McNamara getting hurt them. The line had a lot of guys back. Good tight. Like, I thought they would be at least solid. It's stunning.
Are you Brian Ferentz's agent now? You're trying to get him back his gig. I mean,
I wouldn't do that.
Jesus, I would blame his father though for keeping him around too long.
Well, some people are.
Yeah.
All right. My second hot take. There's a lot of talk coming out of the president's office at the University of Michigan about due process and wanting the Big Ten to wait to be fair to Jim Harbaugh, to the program, to the kids, student athletes, to the careers of the coaching staff and all that before they make any decision, to let the investigation play out. And this one, it's just, and I tweeted about it last night, and it's got a lot of response. I mean, it's just, it's rich as fuck, because like there was, when the tunnel incident happened, and I understand these aren't exactly the same thing, but nonetheless, there was zero call for due process. There was talk of assault charges that night. Jim Harbaugh did not help things at all. And I'm not saying that you can't make an argument for due process in this case. I'm just saying if you're Michigan, you got to be a little more self-aware that nobody is going to think you deserve it when you don't call for it for other people, when you don't view other people as equals. That said, we're in a sport where, or in a climate where people are all hypocrites. I mean, every administrator will talk about the well-being of student athletes and how that stuff comes first. But it's almost as if like the kids at Oregon State and Washington State who signed up for one thing and now aren't Power 5 in a Power 5 program and are going to have a different experience. They aren't human because they don't matter. You know what I mean? Like, what's the difference, athlete at Oregon State and Michigan State? Nothing. They're both human. So if you give a fuck about the Michigan State kid, give a crap about the Oregon State kid. A little bit of a tangent there. However, the problem Michigan has now is there is fairly overwhelming evidence to a degree of wrongdoing, right? We don't know what Jim Harbaugh knew. We don't know who knew what on the staff.
Welcome to the blue wall.
But we know wrongdoing was done. There is, I mean, what does an investigation have to actually find before you can make any sort of decision at all? Does there have to be a mountain of incontrovertible evidence before you even consider a suspension for somebody? The problem that the Big Ten faces right now is all this stuff is happening in real time. This is a season that's ongoing, a season in which there are serious allegations that Michigan at least overstepped the rules to try to win games. And so this isn't something that happened years ago. This isn't something that doesn't affect the other teams you're in a Big Ten title hunt with or that you've played to this point. And I don't know what an appropriate punishment is. I think it'll come down this week. I would be very surprised if Jim Harbaugh isn't suspended for at least a couple games this week. I don't know if they can do a lot more in the Big Ten, but if I were in the Big Ten commissioner's shoes, here's what I would do. I would suspend Harbaugh because he's the head of the program, and even if whatever, the enough has been found at this point that a 2-game suspension or whatever, 3-game suspension, rest of the regular season for him would be warranted, I think. And then if more is found through the due process, you can make other decisions. I would also consider making them ineligible for the Big Ten championship. I wouldn't vacate any games. That's really hard to do. That's hard to know at this point what's what there. But if you make them ineligible for the Big Ten champion, then your champion of your league, at least you're saying we don't want that representing us as our champion. Doesn't mean they can't be picked for the playoff. They go unbeaten. The playoff can make their own determination. There's nothing that says they can't be part of it. But they wouldn't be representing the Big Ten in Indianapolis in the blowout against Iowa. I mean, and they wouldn't have a Big Ten championship to their name. It would send that sort of message. I think that would be a fair way of not completely ruining a season before you know everything, but also saying what happened here wasn't right. It was your program. This wasn't somebody who wasn't involved. And that would be my play. I don't know if they can go that far. I don't know if Big Ten rules will allow it under the sportsmanship stuff. I think what you're likely to see is just Jim Harbaugh, a couple games, and that's that. They wouldn't be inconsequential games. It's including at Penn State on the road, right? They could. I mean, there's something to it, but
isn't it almost worse if though Harbaugh says and claims that he didn't know anything about it? But if something like that is going on in your program, and we see Stallions on the sideline close to all these guys, isn't that almost more embarrassing than actually knowing it and still doing it?
Well, but you can have somebody on your sidelines who's, nobody's saying they don't steal signs. That's not against the rules. It's how you obtain those signs through the videotaping, through the advanced scouting. There could be firewalls before Harbaugh where he doesn't know, but it's his program.
But Connor Stallions did not commit a crime.
An actual crime?
Yeah.
Nothing that we
So there's
know.
no reason that he would have to explain himself in some deposition or something like that.
Well,
so he can just sit there and go, I don't know. I'm stepping away from the program. I have nothing else to say. So then he's done.
Right. If he says Jim Harbaugh didn't know anything, he's not really a credible
That guy loves Michigan.
service.
He's
Right.
not going to say a fucking word.
No.
So
he's obsessed. He's Connor Stallions is a reason to shut it all down. Like when we as adults have that mind, that level of obsession of fandom, it's
and he's not the only dude. And
no,
I'm not even just talking about Michigan.
Lots of people in this world are fans of their teams like that.
But there's different levels.
But that is a level of guy, like, we need to find other hobbies. We need to take a break from sports. If everybody was like that, we need to just
If you're
shut
writing
it down.
fan fiction about future seasons and shit.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Not great. What is your third hot take?
All right. I used to love the NBA, Graham. Now I really just don't know what to do with it. This in-season tournament, I mean, how hilarious was this? I don't know if you saw Bones Highland for the Clippers admitted in an interview, he goes, I don't even know what's going on. And I have to admit, the courts that I see that are all bright, I mean, is it possible? I'm willing to give things a shot, but the start of this doesn't seem like it's really that great if fucking players don't know what the rules are.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm supposed to get into it in November. I really want to. I miss the NBA I loved, but this shit where they just dribble around and watch each other shoot, it's just boring to me.
The NBA is always going to have trouble doing anything. I mean, that's why they got the in-season tournament coming. That's what the idea of
But what's the point? Do these players even give a shit?
No, but the idea is eventually, if you stick to it, that it will matter.
Bones Highland will figure out the rules.
But
season.
I mean, the idea is if you stick to the tournament, that eventually that'll be something that helps. Like the first few years, it's not. But if it becomes a thing, you have to. Consistency and quality makes anything, right? So you have to be consistent. You have to try to create a quality product. But yeah, it's the NBA in the early parts of the season is always.
It seemed like it was trying too hard. The courts are all crazy. But
yeah,
all right.
My final hot take: Michigan State opens Monday night in basketball against James Madison.
Thank God.
I do want to brace people. I think this game is going to be fairly competitive, and so people are going to freak out a little bit.
Don't coach my team.
It's like, James Madison is not a great basketball brand, but it's a really good team. They won 22 games. They got a lot of guys back, some transfers. It's a seasoned team. Like, there are lots of different levels of mid-major. Not every team, in the mid-major level is created anywhere near equally. This is a team that a lot of people have projected in the NCAA tournament. They've won their conference 2 straight years.
People that know ball.
People know ball. Like, people put together, like, the really good preview stuff that you have to subscribe to and pay for. Not the shit that I write. No, you have to subscribe to that too, but it's still shit. Anyway, and so I just want to kind of brace people for that like, it is going to be a competitive game. I think it's a great I think you get so much more out of playing a good mid-major team than a crappy team. But I just want people to be prepared for a game that is like...
Talking about a loss? Or you talking about
no.
James Madison covering the spread?
They should win it. But I'm talking about a game that could be 10, 12 points deep into the second half and not feel like Michigan State's pulling away, feel like they're in a fight. And they're just playing a better team than I think a lot of people will realize.
Is this a team you're going to be talking about all season long, too? Kind of like Buffalo a couple years ago?
I don't know if they're that good, because that team was really something. But they're a team that could wind up in the NCAA tournament as like a 13 seed, 12 seed, right? That wins a game. They're decent, and so just be prepared for that. An early season game with a lot of seasoned players, just like Michigan State, that knows how to win. Maybe Michigan State will run them off the court. That would be a really good sign. I think there's value in this. I think there's value in winning that game. I think it's a better team than they'll play. Like the Southern Indiana team they play Thursday night is, while that's a storied program when they were a Division II school, and that's where Bruce Pearl cut his teeth and they won a national title there in Division II. And this is, I think, their second year in Division I. Like they are, that's, I think, in the Summit League. That is a low major that should be a blowout. There's going to be a big difference between Monday's game and Thursday's game. And I don't think people, if you're not paying a whole lot of attention, James Madison, Southern Indiana, who the hell knows the difference? There will be a significant difference on the court, and just brace for that Monday night. That is my third and final hot take. All right, are you ready to dig into these listener hot takes?
God, yes, let's do this. Eric Schultz up first, of course. Number 1, though Harlan Barnett is to coaching what Ebola is to infectious diseases, his ability to keep the team bought in amid everything is extremely impressive. 2, I know the fan base is urban or bust when it comes to MSU's next coach, but Lance Leopold wouldn't be a bad consolation. And 3, success for this MSU team means being a legitimate Final Four contender. If they go 23-9, are a 4 seed, and get bounced by Kansas in the Sweet 16, this season is an abject failure. If in January Graham's talking about a 2-year group again, I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah, no, you can. This is not a 2-year group. It doesn't mean they won't be good next year, but look how old they are. Look who they're going to lose. I mean, Tyson Walker. I can't imagine A.J. Hoggard comes back. Jaden Akins will want to be in the NBA a year from now. Malik Hall. Like, there are 4 starters from this team who could be gone next year, and maybe Sissoko too. Who knows? But like, it could be all 5 starters from this team are gone after this year. It is not a 2-year group, even if what's being built behind it allows some things to be sustained. No, this is a year to go after it, and anything less than a team that's competing for a Final Four and a title would be disappointing. I want to get into the Lance Leopold point he makes, because Eric's right on this. For all the talk about Urban Meyer, you can argue that Lance Leopold has done almost as well in his coaching career. And I am always impressed by guys who win everywhere, at every level. It's the Brian Kelly thing, right? He was great at Grand Valley State, national titles, goes on to Central Michigan, very good, great there, great at Cincinnati, keeps moving up. Anyway, those guys are great coaches. And Lance Leopold is at Wisconsin Whitewater, right, playing Division III from 2007 through 14. He wins a Division III national championship in 2007, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2013, 2014. He went 15-0 5 times as a Division III coach. Then he moves on to Buffalo. Not an easy place to win. I used to cover the MAC. Some people might be aware. Takes over a team that's, program that's not in great shape. 5-7, 2-10, 6-6, 10-4, 8-5, 6-1 in the COVID year. Boom, moves on to Kansas. Difficult as hell place to win in college football, right? There's nothing there. They were in just a horrible state of being when he takes over in 2021. They go 2-10. Last year, they go 6-7. This year, they're 7-2. Like, this guy just builds it and gets it every year. That's his entire resume. Tell me where he's failed. He's done it at places with fewer resources than Michigan State. And he's done it in the Big 12 at Kansas at this point, I think. And he won enormously at the Division III level. I like him a lot. He's 60 years old, but what they ultimately need is a guy who's in some ways fixes things and gets the culture back and wins and can develop talent. I don't think he'll struggle to recruit. From my understanding, he would want the job. And so...
Well, yeah. I would think so.
Well, some guys get...
his age, if this resume that you just read off of was from like maybe 12 years ago, I would be more excited. But I think what does the guy really want here? I know he's 7-2 with Kansas right now, but before that, 6-7, 2-10.
It's a pretty good deal. I'm not saying that Urban Meyer's resume isn't better because he did it at Bowling Green, Utah, Florida, and where the fuck was he at the end? Ohio State, obviously. And but I'm just saying that guys like this, they don't fail. Guys like this win everywhere they go. He would win at Michigan State. Michigan State fans would ultimately be happy. If the goal at Michigan State, and I think this should be the goal, is to year in and year out be competing to be in the playoff, right? And every few years you got a type of team that has a chance at winning a Big Ten title, but it's going to be a brutal league. The idea is every year having a chance to be the 9-3, 10-2 team, and some years it won't work, but a top 12 team that gets you in the playoff, gets you in the dance. I think this guy would do it. I think he would put you in that conversation a lot of years. And I think that one of the things that's going to be healthy about this Urban Meyer discussion as it moves off and likely into another direction is that it happened early. Like, there was so much runway for this coaching search. And it was just natural. Like, people's minds are going to wander. Dreams are going to happen. Urban Meyer is the only guy of all these coaches who's not coaching another team right now. What the pursuit of Urban Meyer, the desire to have him, and sort of the momentum toward that is 100% natural. But and the fact that there were 2 months, I think it would be healthy for the fan base when they likely wind up with somebody else to have that a little out of their system and have gone through that process and then start to consider other people. And I think Lance Leopold at Kansas is one of the people they ought to consider very, very seriously. And if they get him, be excited about.
Dominic next, number 1. Tuesday was your most annoying performance in the 5 years of the pod, Graham. Between Lone Wolf Stallions and lessons to be learned for Hauser fans, I could have honestly bitch-slapped my Bluetooth. You were so condescending and pompous. Seriously, that was your Ben Carter moment. 2, you've said for a couple of years that Tuck was Haller's guy, that while he wasn't officially the AD, Tuck was his guy. Well, Ebling is on his show these past few weeks saying that Tucker was not Haller's guy and that Haller's objections were overruled. For fuck's sake, what? 3, next time you want to take people to task, Graham, you could start with your media brethren. I've personally witnessed Ebling go full Hawaii spa for Foster Lawyer and Noah Kim when it invariably blows up, and he goes full revisionist saying fans are so unreasonable. Bonus take. Yes, Graham, I'm clear the Bears are morons for the Montez Sweat trade. I can say it. Jason can say it. Know who can't say it? Dudes who bailed on their shitty team and bought an Orange Crush John Elway jersey. Hashtag Graham Chach. Second bonus. Take that I deserve, he says. Graham, say Harbaugh to the Bears again. Say it again. I dare you. If you hadn't saved your week by calling out Santa's oh no hilarious hypocrisy today, you and I would be trading blows at an unnamed cozy but spacious bar and grill.
That would be Midtown Brewing Company, by the way, where they do not encourage fighting, but they have fantastic beer, and it is cozy.
But for this
and
occasion, they're in.
Yeah, they might sponsor the bout, and
we could get you guys those suits, like sumo suits.
That would be fun. That would be the only way.
Dominic would put one on, and you would just be yourself.
Yeah. Oh.
Come on. Oh, that was good. Easy.
That was good. Okay, so Dominic has a couple things to get into here. Yeah, not every show is our best, and I actually thought Tuesday's show wasn't horrible. I thought Wednesday's wasn't great.
You're panicking.
Yeah, I'm panicking. Yep. Anyway, I want to get into the Ebling stuff here with Alan Haller.
Is that real?
So I don't know every detail that went on with the Mel Tucker hiring, but I know it doesn't happen without Alan Haller. And I remember very distinctly being at the introduction press conference of Leah Johnson, the Michigan State volleyball coach, and Haller was there. And I was asking him about other hires and how important this hire was for him. And he very distinctly said, well, I have the Mel Tucker hire. Like, he very distinctly claiming credit for the Mel Tucker hire. So he can't back out now. I don't know what he told Ebling. I don't know what Ebling's doing. Ebling was a huge Foster Lawyer guy for sure. But a lot of us were. Like, I remember watching Foster Lawyer play at Clarkston and thinking, boy, that guy could be a lot of fun at the college game. It just turned out the level of the Big Ten was too high for him. And part of that has to do with school choice. And you don't want to get me on this rant, but in the old days, we would have known it because Foster Lawyer playing in the Class A semifinals and state championship would have been up against Kalamazoo Central, Detroit Pershing Flint, somebody, and some dudes who could get after him and get into him. Instead, he's up against Suburban School of Our Lakes for Your Mother, and somebody else and a bunch of dudes who look like me and Jason, and he looks amazing. He scores 80 points. And that's because the urban schools have lost population. Class B is actually often Class B and C better level of basketball or whatever division, whatever they call it now. So that's why that happened with Foster Lawyer. But a lot of us were in there. Fair point and good takes, Dominic.
Spartan 18770. Number one, playing both quarterbacks is MSU's attempt at keeping one or both from transferring before the end of the season. Two, if true about the list of reported coaches that MSU wishes to interview, then we might as well go for a young offensive coordinator who wants to make a name for himself. And three, the green helmet with green face mask should be the standard MSU helmet the football team wears going forward. And bonus, Connor Stallion never would have been ID'd on CMU's sideline if he wore a soft, breathable muskox flannel, a perfect solution for those fall September nights in Michigan.
Well played. That would be something if Connor had brought muskox flannel into this and was.
But he would stand out because people would be like, "Man,
I want to look that good."
Well, no, but like, look at that little weirdo guy, but he's got a nice flannel.
Right, that's true. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Binoculars? What's he doing?
I'm not sure muskox could have kept Connor out of trouble, but yeah, no. If you want to enjoy those September, October, and November nights in Michigan in pure comfort, go to gomuskox.com and use the promo code HOFF HOFF for $15 off your flannel purchase for Couch in the Rube listeners. I do like the green face mask look. I thought those were nice uniforms. The question being,
I agree with this number two.
Okay.
Before like a guy like Leopold, I would rather go for, this is just my opinion,
the Brian Hartline.
I would rather go younger coordinator guy that no one really knows yet. There's a lot of mystery.
There's more danger in that. I mean, that's the problem. Sure. Is to me, Leopold is a sure bet. Like Leopold's floor, and I understand people want the excitement of let's get the guy who takes MSU to be something they haven't been. Right. I think you can kind of get the best of both worlds with a guy like Leopold. I do. I'm not worried about the age. Like, how long do you expect somebody to coach? If you're 60 these days, you got 10 years left if that's who you are and that's what you want to do. Now, D'Antonio didn't want to do that, but a lot of these guys still do. And so how much longer would he actually coach? I think if you're somebody who can give 6, 7, 8 years at a place and really get it moving.
Yeah, but Big 10 years, though, I mean, that's going to age him even faster. Especially with the new conferences. And
I'm going to tell you right now, riding the bus and the Mac with those resources, you want to be aged. Have the office at Michigan State is pretty nice compared to what you're dealing with at UB.
Sure. Spartan. I read that one. Michael Warheit next. Between the Kansas coach, Washington State, or Oregon State coach, do you have a preference? Also, keeping in mind to keep Sam Leavitt from transferring.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because you can say, well, it's just one player, and that shouldn't be a consideration, and it really can't with a head coach. But, if you've got a guy who at minimum could be a really good quarterback for you for 3 more years, you talk about making the next few years less painful, because a great quarterback, especially a playmaker, can cover up a lot. It's the Kenneth Walker of the quarterback position. You know what I mean? Like, the defense is you see how many of those guys stick around. But if you wound up with a quarterback who could do more than just sort of run the offense, like I think Katin Hauser can be a fine college quarterback. I think there are lots of guys that he could be as good at. I think Sam Leavitt has shown the signs that he could be something more, that he could be something special. And you want to try to explore that, and you'd love to keep that. Leopold is the most proven dude to me. Dickert at Washington State I've liked a lot. They've sort of fallen apart a little bit there, but I still think he's a really good coach.
Well, he was put in a tough situation, right, with the COVID thing, and Rolovich got knocked out, and that's how he became the head coach. Dickert has, Wisconsin Midwest ties a little bit to it, and he's younger. So, I mean, I wouldn't be – I don't know if I could be mad at that hire.
But if you're bringing in a guy because he's younger, and I'm with you on – I mean, ideally, I think that 42-year-old, 48-year-old, the energy and the experience of that age group is ideal, right? Sure. If you can do it. Yep. But the odds that somebody's going to be your coach for 20 years is not that great.
Yeah, but
anyway.
It's more of a young way of thinking. Like, you just don't want to get – some of these coaches have that old school kind of thinking. In today's football, I don't know if it works. So, Jack Hockelot, number 1. The Pac-12 schools coming into the Big Ten are going to force the Big Ten to adapt, or the other way around. But it will be fascinating to see a team like Iowa play a team like Washington in Iowa City. 2, I'm excited to see MSU basketball press on defense.
Yeah, the new Big Ten will be – I think it's going to be wild. I think it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it's not – I don't think it's best for the sport, but I think it'll be fun in a sort of – at times macro, micro – I don't know, macro is the wrong – it'll be fun at times for those matchups, and there will be parts of it that are really exciting, and there'll be parts of it you're like, this was better the old way. Yeah, I don't know how much. I'm very curious to see if there's actual, like, what the press looks like on defense in terms of traps and three-quarter courts and how much guys get into them. They got the guards to do it. It's not always you have this sort of team athletically. Like when they had Cassius Winston, you're playing him 35 minutes a game anyway. He's not somebody who's great on defense. They actually have guards who are really good on defense, and they got a lot of them, so it gives you some opportunities to do some different things.
And we said, would somebody please guard somebody?
Andrew Gauthier next. Number 1, the followers feature is the most annoying update Facebook has made since Farmville or poking. 2, Leavitt needs more snaps there's no point burning his red shirt this season. He still seems like he brings more juice to the offense. And 3, both sides of the Urban Meyer argument are becoming unbearable. Can we just hire someone quickly, please?
And it's not going to happen until the end of this month. I mean, it just wouldn't, they do not want, first of all, no coach who's coaching another team right now wants their name out there. Your team's going to fall apart. It's just not good. And some coaches probably won't even talk to them until it's over. Mark D'Antonio would not when he was at Cincinnati. And by respecting that and staying with them, look what they got for a lot of good years. So that may happen. The other thing is they want to respect the team and Harlan Barnett. And Harlan Barnett, I will interview for the job. Like I think he will interview for the job.
It'll be short.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
Be a
think
record
he's going to get it, but you know, they're
8.5 minutes.
They're going to respect him and give him the interview that anybody who's your interim coach deserves.
Is that right? All right. Nestle's Quick Hotel. A lot of good poker faces in that room. Number 1, MSU's coaches gave both quarterbacks a reason to stay. Either one could be the guy next season. 2, this was a nice going away gift for the coaching staff. L, Scotty, and JJ going away is our gift. 3, had MSU been in the Big Ten West, they'd have many more Big Ten championship game appearances.
It would have been different, you know, and I think back to like even the 2019 team that fell apart and then got hammered at Wisconsin. That was a good Wisconsin team. So you can say, well, that team wouldn't have. But there were, you know, that team fell apart in part because of what happened against Ohio State. They viewed that as the measuring stick, and when it didn't work, they were just deflated the next week. If ultimately Ohio State was in the other division, probably not even on your schedule, and you hit Wisconsin first that year, I don't know, are things different? At certain times, that you're right, it would have been a different path for them. This year, they're not even, Michigan State's not even very good, and I mean, Wisconsin just lost to Indiana. I mean, it's just Michigan State might very well be in the hunt for the Big Ten West title, even after everything that's going on, if they were in the Big Ten West this year.
JD, next, number 1. Yet another late game masterclass from this coaching staff. I guess Mel Tucker wasn't the problem in that regard either. What a bunch of dipshits that guy surrounded himself with. 2, Sam Leavitt and Katin Hauser balled out, and I'm actually really liking the dual quarterback rollout, despite how dumb of a concept it is. Please just keep at least one of them. And 3, Ryan Walters, fucking legend. Hope every coach does that at the end of their game against Michigan for the rest of the season.
So Walters is the Purdue coach, and he had kind of a flyby handshake. I don't know that Harbaugh really knew who he was, but it was.
I think Harbaugh said, "Oh yeah, it was a standard handshake." I'm like, I just love just bouncing off. Just nothing, happens to Jim Harbaugh. It's crazy.
He is. He's just
what a mental way to have in life, though. Just no, hey man, that was normal.
Yeah, no.
I would be thinking about it all fucking night. Harbaugh's whatever.
Yeah, and look, Walters, to his credit, didn't back down this week. He had a Purdue team that, and the game got away at the end, but they actually put up a better fight than a lot of teams have. Covered the spread, and which I didn't think they would do. And yeah, so they did that as well. I mean, as much as Leavitt looks like the more promising player than Hauser in terms of upside, MSU's in real trouble if all these guys are gone. Like if Noah Kim leaves and Sam Leavitt leaves, and you at least have Katin Hauser coming back next year, a guy who's a redshirt sophomore, been in college football a couple of years, played in some big games, gotten the crap beat out of him, had some good moments and bad moments. Like you can work with that. So you need to make sure you have one of them.
Yeah, we don't have enough time for all of that.
Zeke's fan page next. Number 1, MSU athletics are the greatest college program in history. 2, Muskox flannel for Christmas will help me win over my future father-in-law. And 3, Zeke the Wonder Dog should be ranked in the college football playoff.
I will say this needs to be part of the live read mix, because I think winning over in-laws and father-in-laws with a Muskox flannel, like it's just such a quality gift, because it's not there's enough to it. Like it's
I sent one to my father-in-law.
Yeah.
Loves it.
And that's the only reason he likes you.
That's true.
It
has to be.
Yeah.
What else would it be?
Yeah, no, it's just a really quality gift, and people will recognize it as such. It's thoughtful. You're giving the gift of comfort, warmth, and quality. And go to gomuskox.com, and you can use the promo code against HOFF, HOFF, for $15 off. Or if you want a bundle, if you want to, they have all sorts of bundle options. You want to get a hat for somebody. I have a great Muskox hat that I love. The T-shirt as well, and you can bundle with a flannel and get up to $50 off by going to gomuskox.com/caw-caw. Different than our promo code, but gomuskox.com/caw-caw gets you to the bundle page.
Jarrett next. Number 1, Michigan football ruined the Big Ten's chances for a national championship 3 years in a row due to cheating. 2, Aiden Hutchinson will not progress in the NFL, and every Michigan player prospect that had on-field smarts should be false advertisement. And 3, the James Madison game will be real close.
Yeah, Jarrett and I are on the same page there. Aiden Hutchinson will not progress in the NFL. I don't know. So far, he's progressed pretty well. Like, progressed to what?
Been bad.
Yeah, I think he's been solid.
I think it's just like a shot.
Yeah, it's a shot at Michigan. Yeah, fair enough.
DMB, number one. Michigan lost its right to due process when its coach trespassed into Spartan Stadium wearing spy glasses. To national media, Bruce Feldman, doing God's work, covering the cheating scandal with integrity. Blue Wall, further Truther Couch, should expect more from his local guys. 3, MSU players deserve that win. They never quit. It's a shame that the quarterbacks and younger players sticking around won't get extra practice or a bowl game. Thanks, Harland. Don't worry, he's a nice guy, though.
So, one of the advantages so if you're in Feldman's shoes or some of these other guys, Brett McMurphy, and you carry a lot of water for agents when they call it, you throw coaching names and coaching search articles and stuff, is you do have a lot of sources that you carry water for, and so you've got a lot of sources to turn to when you've got to do these stories. Anyway.
Doing God's work.
Yeah. Look, it was a good story he did by The Athletic. They've got a lot of sources. I usually like Feldman. I've talked to Feldman a fair bit for different reasons. We've had him on the show before, been several years. I was really annoyed with, and still am, with the way that they covered the early stage of the coaching search. I mean, they just made shit up, right? That shouldn't be allowed. You cannot, there were not leading candidates. There were not actual candidates. The profile for the fucking candidate hadn't actually been done yet. And yet it was like, these are the wording of it by both him and McMurphy was irresponsible, was just crap. And it pissed me off. Doesn't mean they don't do a lot of good work, but that they should do better.
Lucas, next, number one, Johnny Spirit stinks, figuratively and probably literally. 2, I don't think Sam should burn his red shirt. Save it for Elko. And 3, the players won that game in spite of poor coaching.
Yeah, but, I mean, if it wasn't for the approach they took, maybe they wouldn't even be enough of them wouldn't still be around to have won that game. So, I'm sorry, I'm not going to spin. You just keep moving.
Jesus. Sorry. Bo McJunkins, number one, when the guy who...
right now, I just keep thinking about Dominic, like, just sitting there ready to, like, bitch slap me in a
You should be
sumo
thinking about
suit.
that NFL games around. We should hurry this shit up, huh?
Well, it's a crap slate.
Yeah, it's true. It is terrible. Bo McJunkins, number one, when the guy who employed Dave Warner is seen mouthing what the fuck on TV at your offensive play calls, he might suck as an offensive coordinator. 2, if we want to get to the bottom of this Michigan investigation, the Big Ten and NCAA need to hire Michael Patrick Shields to ask his really good questions to Jim Harbaugh. 3, Michigan fans thinking Graham is comparing the act of sign stealing to the tunnel is so on brand for that fan base. Santa Ono fits right in with that cult. And bonus, someone should do a wellness check on Bill Simons.
Yeah,
a huge show.
Yeah, his tweets have been. I mean, it's almost like he's got stock in Michigan football. It's been pretty over the top. I've been a little surprised by that. Like I mean, I didn't think he gave a shit that much about Michigan football. Yeah, no, we can talk to Michael Patrick Shields about coming on to help out on that. Dave Warner, the Mark D'Antonio video that went around a little bit with him mouthing, what the F.
What the H?
And I don't know if it was for the offensive play calls, though. I think it might have been after they didn't have enough guys on the field for the field goal attempt. I'm not exactly sure when it was for, and I wasn't watching the game live on TV, so maybe I'm incorrect on that. And
who talked D'Antonio into doing this? Was it Izzo?
It was Harlan, not Harlan. It was Alan Haller. Yeah, no.
Matt C, number one, Michigan is a 6-6 team without cheating if they played in a real conference. I love Matt C. 2, I've never seen a man with less swag than Harlan Barnett. It's painful to watch. Stepdad, coach, but glad to get the W. And 3, seriously, how spineless is the Big Ten for letting Michigan walk all over them? The conference has no integrity if they don't ban Michigan from the postseason. There is an orgy of evidence against them. All the other coaches and ADs are pissed. Tony Pettetti is a clown.
Well, we'll see what he does this week. I would be surprised if there isn't some sort of suspension within his whatever he's able to do. If he was able to say they can't play in the championship game, I would be inclined to do that because I think that walks a fine line of we talk about due process and all the jokes for that. There is a chance that when the investigations are completed, that there's a larger hammer that drops. But if you say, look, what you did, we think is enough to not, it ruined the integrity of this Big Ten season. We do not want you representing our league in the championship. But also, if the playoff committee still wants to select you, that's on them. You're not going to play in our championship game. I think that would be, while stiff, while fair. I think it would send a message and not be so punitive that it's irrecoverable from. But that would be my play if I were in his shoes and I were able to do that. I don't know if under any rules he has to do that. I think he may need presidential approval to do certain things. So we'll see where it actually goes. But I would expect a suspension from Jim Harbaugh.
The Youper next. Number one, MSU football is coming off a messy public breakup, and Urban is the attractive himbo we think will distract from the pain. But right now, we just need a nice, stable guy to help us rebuild our foundation and heal our broken hearts. 2, at halftime, when the band played Lee Greenwood, Proud to Be an American, I told everyone in my section that actually this was a terrible song with an annoying melody.
Appreciate you.
3, when they all started booing me and throwing trash, I responded by shouting, "Caw, caw," as loudly as I could. This did not go well. My muskox flannel was ruined, and I had to watch the rest of the game at Front 43, but I couldn't remember the address. Thanks for nothing, Graham.
Well played, sir. Well played. With number one here, the idea that, Urban is the attractive himbo is how Youper puts it. That will distract from the pain. But right now, you need a nice, stable guy. What you need is the right fit. You need a good coach, though. What you need is a really good coach. But I think Jason's point is interesting. Earlier, when we talked about the idea of going for the offensive coordinator who maybe has big upside. Because, if you got Kalen DeBoer, for example, when he was at Indiana, you'd probably have a great coach right now. You just didn't know when he was at Indiana that he was going to be this guy. So if you interview somebody who is a coordinator who you think this guy is everything you want as a head coach, you shouldn't preclude those people. I just think that where Michigan State is now, what they think they need, they're going to want a sitting head coach, and much more likely to go in that direction. Let's take a really quick break. We come back. David Jackson, Kevin from Rochester Hills, Kurt Wisniewski, and Gavin Haas up next. Couch in the Rube, presented by our friends at Muskox Quality Flannels.
Where else can you cheer on your team, enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi, sip on handcrafted cocktails, or one of 46 beers on tap? Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen Bar or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. 2 amazing places with one awesome blended modern American-Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. Ever wonder how comfortable you can be and how good you can look? Put on a Muskox flannel and find out. Muskox has new arrivals for this fall, including the Caper Green Grand Flannel, which even makes couch look good. Muskox is a Detroit-based flannel company that creates soft and durable flannels made to last a lifetime. They become a great partner with Couch in the Rube, not just because they make us look good and feel good, but because they're good people too, and a socially conscious company. For every $100 purchase, $10 is donated to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation. Muskox flannels are designed with 100% cotton that is ethically sourced and double brushed for softness. Feel the quality and comfort of a Muskox flannel by ordering at gomuskox.com, where Couch in the Rube listeners can enjoy $15 off their flannel purchase with the promo code HOFF. Firekeepers Online Casino and Sportsbook is the site to play. Get your Vegas on right now from your phone, tablet, or laptop. All the hottest slots and tables, plus sports betting featuring in-game wagering. Download the app at firekeeperscasino.com. Go with the name you know. Firekeepers. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117.
Find Couch in the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite podcast addict.
From Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA. Well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time.
If you like Lee Greenwood, let me introduce you to Chad Latz. Hit that high note, buddy.
And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know.
All right, before I get my lighter out, let's.
So I got to say, though, he isn't worse. I mean, the melody is so bad that it really doesn't matter how good your voice is. I mean, you know,
sure.
Pavarotti couldn't do justice to that melody.
Gave that right to me, and I'll gladly stand up next to you.
I mean, but the best part about that is it sounds like some dude just randomly singing in the shower, and that's the melody. Like, I cannot imagine anybody in there ever coming up with a worse melody just singing in the shower. I mean, it's not the words. Again, this isn't to be offensive to that. It's who greenlit that. I was watching a rerun of, or maybe it wasn't a rerun, maybe it was live, but I thought it was of SNL last night, and the musical guest was like the worst song ever. It was just like, that's a song? Like, that was, Who
was it?
Hold on, give me some Hoff.
All right.
Go Lions, restore the roar.
That too.
Hit that by accident.
I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me. Girl, you just don't realize what you do to me.
Ice Spice?
Oh, my God. We waited for that.
Sorry. I don't know. But
What is that?
I don't know.
Ice Spice?
Yeah, it was just awful. I mean, it was like three young women on a stage. There was like no, they just kept repeating the same word. It wasn't like their voices were amazing.
That means we're old, man.
Nah, there's got to be a
people at 44 back in the day when we were young were laughing at Limp Bizkit and all that shit. So it was just our time to laugh at Ice Spice. Although that is garbage, though.
It's true. There was a point in my life where I wanted to be like one of the guys jumping around in a rap group who had zero talent, but was in the background, was on stage.
The token white guy.
Yeah, it's like that guy's making money. He's on tour. Well, what's he doing? Yeah,
they make him go run errands and shit. Probably.
You just got to wear like a stock. The problem is you always have to wear a stocking cap. You know what I'm talking about, like a wool cap. And then even in the summer, I would just be sweating up there like nothing. Would be disgusting. I'd have stains under my chest, under my breasts, and in my it'd be the worst. Be the absolute worst. All right, let's get back into.
We're still doing the show. To Uper. Number one, MSU football is coming off a messy public break-off.
Oh, we already did that one. We're on David Jackson.
I'm so sorry, David. Number one, Harbaugh will never coach another game against OSU. Two, my two alma maters playing the number one and number two ranked teams in the country is ghastly, but I will be 1-1 on Saturday. And three, comedies of errors lost all of Rutgers, Iowa, and Minnesota. We're actually, maybe shockingly, good enough to stay with OSU.
I'm curious to see what happens at Ohio State because it's at night. Ohio State didn't play well at Rutgers. They're going to be ornery. Like it's a rough setup. But offensively, they are much more limited, especially at the quarterback position than they've been in some years past. And that does create an opportunity. I think defensively they're as good as anybody in the country. So that creates an opportunity, though, not to get completely just run away from, like there have been years where they've been just so explosive. A team like Michigan State would have no chance. And the problem is, though, I just don't know how MSU scores on that Ohio State defense. I just don't know how it happens. I think MSU's defense is actually okay enough on its own to be competitive in that game. The problem is, I don't know. If I had to pick a score right now, and Michigan State's offense will turn the ball over, I think you're going to wind up like, 38-3 or something like that. I don't find it being much better than that.
Kevin from Rochester Hills next. Number one, MSU should have won 8 games this year. 2, Connor Stallions will be on MSU staff next year. And 3, the blue wall will crumble if the News and Freep go under.
Well, I think most people consider those two places to be the blue wall. By the way, speaking of the blue wall, Wojo from the News has a column a little bit sort of explaining the getting into the Harbaugh stuff, getting into him putting Michigan in this situation. I haven't actually read it, so I don't know what the tone is, but so there's that. The blue wall is
Harbaugh's innocent.
Spoken. Yeah, that was the MSU should have won 8 games this year. Well, let's just look at the schedule. Under normal circumstances, if you had everything in line, let's say they beat Rutgers, they beat Iowa, they beat Nebraska. Let's say they beat Minnesota. That's 4 more wins, and they're already at 3. That was 3 more wins because they won 1, so they're at 6. Indiana, maybe. I thought 6 or 7 before everything went down was about where they would be, and most likely 6.
Kurt Wisniewski, number 1. Even though the AAC didn't need spies against Purdue, Harbaugh is still a chode. 2, it was great to see Leavitt play. He needs to be the guy. And 3, it's Urban or bust.
You're probably going to bust. I mean, I just...
Wait, now he's not going to be hired? I mean, like last week, he said he was going to be hired.
I didn't say that. I've never said he was going to be hired.
Well, I mean, like a low chance, 5%. I guess I left that out. Probably mentioned that part.
It's a big leave out.
Yeah, it is. Sorry.
Yeah.
I realize that now.
Yeah, thank you.
But now it's off, right? So no worries.
I'm not saying it. So I don't think it was ever on and 100%.
But it wouldn't surprise me. Okay.
Yeah, I would prepare for somebody other than Urban Meyer. Is what I would say.
Gavin Haas, number 1. Katin Hauser played a phenomenal game today, and anyone acting like he didn't is in full Leavitt bias mode. Katin has all the talents to be the guy for years to come, and it's ridiculous that the fan base is already wanting him off. Writing. 2, East Lansing was a great environment on Saturday. It wasn't as lively as earlier on in the season, but the fan base showed up and created a positive environment for the team. 3, I'm at full excitement levels about starting college next year. Having been accepted into MSU and not having to stress or worry about getting in is the biggest relief of the process. I can't wait to be in East Lansing next fall.
First of all, congratulations, Gavin. I would have trouble if I got accepted to a school really early, finishing out the year.
Oh, God.
Be like, all right, I'm in. Am I going to class still? What do I have to? No, I'm just kidding. Couple things. One, Gavin, you've sort of tipped your hand with some of your pictures on social media of you next to Katin Hauser in a Katin Hauser jersey. So I don't know if you are a really objective source on Katin Hauser at this point.
The man's passionate into what he believes. I mean, why wouldn't you sit next to a guy you believe in with his jersey? I mean,
No, and Gavin, we have appreciated that passion toward our show many a times over the last few years. Is our youngest and one of our very appreciated listeners.
Are you doing a toast or something for his graduation?
Maybe I just will. Yeah, I think Katin could be still a really good college quarterback. I think what's tough for Katin Hauser is that Sam Leavitt's also there. I think if you take Sam Leavitt out of the equation, there would be some things about Katin Hauser you go, oh boy, I don't know if that, those passes in the flat don't have a lot of steam on them. There's some limitations there. But okay, young quarterback, shown some moxie here and there. I think when you put him up next to Sam Leavitt, though, it's just pretty clear that Leavitt has another gear in his arm, another gear to his feet. Now, whether he has that, it factor all the way around, we don't know yet. But that's what people want to see. They just want to see more of him to get a sense of that.
Suburban Spartan Dad next. Jordan Hall, Dylan Tatum, Jalen Thompson, Chance Rucker, Jaden Mangum, Caleb Cooley, Malik Spencer are the core of a really good future defense for MSU. MSU needs to find a way to keep these guys in East Lansing.
If you keep all those guys, it makes a big difference. Yeah, I mean, there are some good young players. And, I was talking to the guys who were in the 2022 class, especially before the season. They really thought, they were going to be the group that began to turn it. And I do wonder how many of these guys who are pretty tight in that defense sort of re-recruit each other. You see that with the recruiting classes. It's very possible that these guys are like, hey, we like being around each other. We like each other. Let's do this together with a new coach. And, we'll all be going through this together.
Sparty in GL next. Even though I like our defense lately, Ohio State will score at least 21 points. We need to take some chances. A drive ending in a turnover is about the same result as a 3-and-out, then punt, and it's more fun to watch. Play Sam Leavitt and take a couple of turnovers to go up with 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, we'll see if Leavitt wants to play. And if he does, I think the plan's going to have to be more than 2 for 1. I just can't imagine that being okay with him and his family if that's what they're doing. The one thing I want to say, going back to the Suburban Spartan Dad about the core players, the different element that's involved now is NIL. So some of these guys are going to get pretty decent offers, and MSU is going to have to get its shit together, and and these guys are going to have to hang in there with MSU, because if you are Jordan Hall, a true freshman linebacker who's shown that sort of promise, people are going to come at you with fairly good NIL offers. Whether all of it's money they'll actually pay up, who knows? There's a lot of that shit going around. But he's going to get some good offers from big places, and we'll have to decide if ultimately he wants to still be in East Lansing.
DC Spartan next. 0 Michigan wins need to be vacated because regardless in the minds of the average NCAA football fan, they already are. Michigan has never made a playoff or beat Ohio State in their very first year of stealing signs. We still beat them. Coincidences don't exist. Their cheating begins, and they go back to the back playoffs. Back to back.
Yeah. Well, there is something to this in the eye. I mean, the eyes of whatever Michigan does will be tainted. And in some ways, now that they've been caught, beating Penn State and Ohio State is imperative, because if you pillaged Ohio State for 2 straight years when people think you were cheating, and then you can't do it when you're done, that lends credence to the idea that those were marred Big Ten championships. And so in some ways, there's more pressure to get it done now.
Lions Dog 97. I've said this earlier, but Jay Johnson calling a second running back pass when all he needed to do was bleed clock proves this team would be 6-3 with the players coaching themselves. I mean, there you go. You just let the guys coach themselves. You can hire a coach. Boom.
I'm not sure they would ever get that 11th man on the line of scrimmage for a field goal without the coaching staff.
I don't know.
Maybe.
Coin flip. David Witcher. Someone really needs to press the football staff about the play calling. Why is every second and long a running play? It kills drives.
There is some predictability. I thought the receiver pass with Alante Brown and Montori Foster was a really well-timed and executed play at a time they needed some punch. So you got to mention the good with the bad. There was some stuff that wasn't great, and I think there's just a lot of limitations to this offense too, and that's part of the problem. If you're a coordinator, you're trying to figure out how to get the most out of it. But you're right; they do set themselves up with more third and longs than probably need to be based on how ineffective they are running the football.
Ken Chu up next, number 1. Best MSU has looked this season. Bigger win if the refs call any penalties against Nebraska. 2, Nebraska was offsides on the missed field goal. And 3, the end of Bedlam sucks, but maybe the cockfight between South Carolina and Jacksonville State can become a thing.
I hate the end of Bedlam. I hate that. That's the problem. That's the problem with these, the conference realignment stuff. I mean, it's just
some great game.
It was, but
fun to watch.
The fact that it's the last version of it sucks. I mean, that's a game that should be forced to exist. If we had a
Mike Gundy's mullet, I mean, it was awesome.
Benevolent dictatorship or something like that. I did go back and I saw this, Ken, and it did look like the Nebraska guy was offsides on the missed field goal. I don't know if that affected the kick at all, but you're right. They had 0 penalties, and either way, that's pretty good discipline. Matt Rule, I think, is a really good college coach. I know it didn't work out in the NFL, and I think a pretty decent guy. From what I understand, he texted Harlan Barnett after the game. Or tried to call him and just congratulate him and texted him and just, I think that's a good sign for somebody who wants to be in the sort of the coaching fraternity of a conference when they, in a moment they just lost a game, they see how much it meant to somebody else and want to let them know that they recognize that.
So how did that news get out? Did Harlan say that?
His wife did.
His wife. Sparty Rick next. Number 1, MSU hockey will make the Frozen Four. 2, football will be severely disinteresting if we don't get Urban or Leopold. And 3, Brad Holmes is a boob for not getting Chase Young.
Are you okay with the Lions not moving in on Chase?
I have to be.
Yeah.
Because Brad Holmes really hasn't, I don't know, it's tough to critique a guy that has your favorite team of all time going in the right direction. I will say that I did write it down in my notes for further, when we can look down the road a little bit because it is a little bit weird. But Montez Sweat, I mean, he just signed that big deal with Chicago. Did you really want to sign Montez Sweat to that big of a deal? So he knows these guys. So is Chase Young bad in the locker room? You just don't know.
Well, and Chase Young is a rental, from what I understand, perhaps for the 49ers in terms of the way they spend money and other things too.
I'll take a rental with Chase Young.
So what did they give up for Chase Young? I
believe it was like a fourth.
Just a fourth? Yeah, that does seem.
I believe.
I mean, the thing. We mentioned this before, but getting a guy like St. Brown in the fourth round is an argument that Brad Holmes has to this point to say, hey, to me, a fourth round pick's valuable.
Yeah, but you're close. And that you can't really say that when it's that rebuilding mode bullshit speak they give you. We're out of that. This is like you want to win now, or here's your window. Fucking do it.
Or maybe Brad Holmes knows. Look, you guys think we can win now, but we have no fucking shot with Jared Goff. I know this, and so I've got to I've got to figure out.
Should have been your hot take.
Yeah, right. They
have no shot. But did I read that? Jay Riemenschneider. The sporadic schedule is killing us, Graham.
Apologies, Jay. Like I said, this wound up working better for us. We're going to be going to more afternoons. We'll get in a rhythm again, and we appreciate you.
Christopher Wilson, as happy and joyful as it is to get a win, that game down the stretch was astonishingly ugly. So much so that I can't even enjoy watching the highlights or recap video. So just watch Harlan Barnett celebrating.
Yeah. I wouldn't watch
Tom Izzo, I guess.
I also wouldn't watch the recap video with me and Solari. I mean, that's just not.
That's the video. I'm sorry. Okay.
That's what I'm thinking he's talking about.
Okay, maybe probably is. Yep.
If not, that's just my ego thinking that's what he's talking about, and that's not great either. So I apologize.
Did Solari interrupt you at all, or?
No.
Okay.
No, it's funny because sometimes I realize how much. I mean, I talk too much in those videos too, because I have to go.
What else are you going to do? Like magic tricks? I mean, we need some out of you.
Well, I have to go through when I'm posting it. I go through and I find the screen grab that's going to be the picture you see of us. And sometimes I'm looking for a goofy shot of Solari, and or just a shot where we both look weird or whatever. And so usually as I'm
must be hard to pick out of all those photos.
Yes, I usually try and limit the chins to at least 3 or no more than 3. But I'm going through and I can just see how much my mouth is running, and I'm
like now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Captain Dave, MSU next. Number 1. Sam Leavitt should leave after being benched after a touchdown drive. F this staff. 2, Jordan Hall is him. Hope he stays. And 3, Paul Bunyan will be back in EL before the next football season.
The Jordan Hall is a nice player. He did have that one missed sack when he got kind of bumped at the last second there that wound up keeping a drive alive, that wound up being that field goal before the half, that disastrous defensive possession. But Sam Leavitt should have left the field. He wasn't benched after the touchdown drive. I mean, that was the plan. I agree. Let a guy get in a rhythm. And I know there aren't that many drives in college football partly because of these new rules and all this stuff. But I would have gone 2-2-2-2 in terms of the playing time, and let a guy get 2 drives in a row, because it sucked for Leavitt. His first drive, they had the ball their own 4-yard line. You're in a tough spot. He gets 3 plays, 1 throw, and he's out, and then he's out for a long, extended time. I think they should have given him a longer look.
David Cox, number 1. The victory over Nebraska was not a thing of pulchritude, whatever the fuck that word is, and much of that is due to the coaching. 2, how many more ways can you try to give a game away all season? And 3, what the Weasels have done is strictly whatever that word is. They can't play mano versus mano a mano, so they cheat.
All right, so I'm going to look these words up. I just don't want them to be porn. Pusillanimous is showing lack of courage or determination. So that was what the Weasels have done, is strictly talking about Ann Arbor, lack of courage or determination.
Would it be easier to say that?
Yes, but he's trying to fuck with you. But you're one step ahead. You're just like, I'm not reading it at all.
No, that just looks scrambled in my brain. Sorry.
And here's the pulchritude is, pictures of breasts. No, I'm kidding. It's just the word beauty. So was not a thing of beauty. Yeah.
All right, cool. I can die now.
Thanks, David.
Matt Boone, number 1. As much as the win was fun, in the back of my head and many others was how many players are coming back. 2, if Leavitt isn't going to play another game, that means he is transferring. And 3, we need to know who the next coach is soon. Bonus. Jay is the worst offensive coordinator and should stop coaching.
Yeah, you're
stop coaching.
It's not going to be that long. It's 3 more games, and this will heat up. I even had to think about that around Thanksgiving. Like I was sort of planning. We were just sort of planning our shows and planning columns and other things. And what a normal Thanksgiving week looks like, especially with hoops and all this stuff. You're like, oh, that'll be decent. The next week's this, and then you're like, well, wait a second. This is going to be like the frenzied coaching search moment right around Thanksgiving and right after. Like, that's going to be on call 24/7. That's going to be a really fascinating December. Yeah.
What if they do it on Thanksgiving Day?
During the MSU basketball game and when I'm in Palm Desert?
Yeah.
They do it before the MSU football game on Friday night, I would be stunned.
All right. Ryan Schultz, number one. I can't wait for MSU throwback jerseys, 2008 or 2015 edition. When Ringer or Cook get honored in the coming years, wish we'd just stick to a classic look. 2, don't tell me punishing scum is unfair to the players. They're actively benefiting from past and present cheating. And 3, don't tell me to wait till next year. Mentality is okay if this year's MSU team isn't top 10 caliber all season. They've had 3 bad years in a row, Couch. Yes, a 4th place Big Ten finish and only beating an injured Marquette team still constitutes a bad year at Michigan fucking State.
So I'm going to take issue with you on number 3. I'm with you on part of it. If MSU isn't a top 10 caliber team all season, then that's not acceptable for this particular team and what they should be able to do. Yet last year, however, was not a bad year in the sense that they made the Sweet 16, and yeah, it just didn't feel like a bad year. And you know, I just think people should be careful on, you know, a 4th place Big Ten finish and getting to a Sweet 16 is a bad year at Michigan fucking State is like, well, wait till the post-Izzo era. You know, like, I mean, there's a certain level of spoiledness, and some of this is the age that I am, that I grew up in the NIT era, and that's fair. Everybody grows up in a different time, but I just think that gives you, if you didn't live in that era, just understand that it once existed, and it's still a one-coach program, and you should never be at a place where 4th place and a Sweet 16 is a bad year. It can be a disappointing year. If it happened this year, it would be a disappointing year, but it's never a bad year.
Professor, number one, hosts or guests wearing a Halloween costume on TV shows is the insultingly lame. How many people think they are creative for dressing like Taylor Swift or Travis Kelce? 2, trick or treat has ruined getting candy on Halloween night. And 3, refs are mega ass, even when their calls benefit MSU.
Okay, so there are a couple things I want to get into here. The Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce thing did get to the point where it wasn't original. There were some good costumes, but it wasn't original. Have you ever had a costume where there was something popular happening and like you dressed up as that, or you and Therese dressed up together as like a couple that was hip or anything like that?
Absolutely not.
No. Yeah.
No. It wasn't about hip. It was about making your friends laugh the most. I didn't really care what other.
So what's the best costume you ever had?
How about the most controversial?
Yeah.
I was a priest. I think I've told this before, but I had priest garb on, and I had a young person toy, it looked like a young child wrapped around my waist, and we went to what used to be the temple down here, whatever they call that, because they had a Halloween party. So I was on stage. I got booed off stage.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was.
But you gotta remember, this is like 2001 or 02 or something.
Yeah. Those
so I thought it was
stories,
funny to me, and my friends laughed a lot. So then you get on stage, and then I thought for sure I was gonna get like a standing ovation.
Yeah. Read that wrong.
I did.
Yeah. No. Well,
I did.
I went as Gavroche from Les Miserables twice. 6th and 7th grade. Real popular kid in middle school, naturally.
Sure.
Anyway, those are stories almost worth telling, presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company, 402 South Washington Avenue in downtown Lansing. Great place for trivia on Tuesday nights, date night on the weekend, drink after work anytime. The American Stout is my absolute favorite beer they have there. Go to midtownbrewing.net to check out their outstanding menu.
I did also go as a mammogram machine one year, and that was... Unfortunately, there was no ladies under the age of 55 at this party, but it was still funny, at least.
Trunk or treat? What is that? What is trunk or treat? I don't even know.
No idea.
Hold on, now I have to look that up because it's now I'm wondering what trunk or treat
this
is.
is what you deserve.
Detroit down to Houston, and
Pressure's
New
on,
York
Couch.
to LA. Well, there's pride in every American
Damn NFL
heart,
football
and
Sunday.
It's time we stand and say.
Okay. Yeah, this is not as cool. Trunk or treating is an alternative to trick or treating in which parents or guardians gather their vehicles in one spot, typically in a parking lot, open their trunks, and give out candy as children walk from car to car.
Wow.
That is lame. I mean, I understand it's safe, it's quicker, and if it's 32 degrees, it's probably an awesome way to get through it really
just pass
fast.
each other a bag of candy that you bought in Target or something.
It's not as fun. It's not as cool. Yeah, nope, not as good.
Chris Eastlick next, number 1. I need that Ross Ells behind-the-scenes article like I need air. How is there a problem every week? 2, Michigan having this guy on another team's sideline might be the most egregious thing in this whole saga. Someone knows something. And 3, credit to Ryan Walters for not backing down. Purdue is not a good team, and they were going to lose anyway, but he shouldn't be catching any heat for telling the truth if his school has evidence, which, by the way, the where's the evidence excuse needs to end. Bonus. If there is no discipline, there is no point to any of this.
There has to be discipline. There will be some discipline, and it may come in stages. I think that's the thing. I mean, I think you will see. I would be very surprised if Harbaugh is not suspended. I just will. I mean, because nobody else, if they don't have, it's your program. You're supposed to have control of your program, and Harbaugh may not have known the specifics of what was happening. Doesn't matter. That is one place we know something happened that was against. I mean, they fired the guy or he resigned or whatever. We know something happened that was against the rules, against the spirit of sportsmanship, and it happened in his program. And so, at the very least, before any other due process, that to me can be done, and so there has to be that consequence. And then if you find out later that this budget was okayed by him, he knew that they were sending guys into other stadiums, or there were 5 or 6 other coaches who were well aware of what was happening. Then you make that determination. But at the bare minimum, there can be you can do it in stages now to have at least some sort of accountability for what happened.
Singus X2 next. Number 1, if the College Football Playoff Committee leaves Washington out, then we know it's a sham and just about the brand. 2, Michigan rumored to be readying a lawsuit against the Big Ten. Suing your family is always a smart strategy, right? 3, if Michigan cheated in 23, explain the fairness that they can play in the Big Ten championship game. And bonus, if Urban is the choice, it will be 6.5 years since he last coached a college football game or recruited. How is he still cutting edge? Is he an innovator? MSU should pray it lands either Jonathan Smith or Mike Elko.
It's funny. There was a real surge towards MSU fans wanting Urban on this app. It is you're starting to see a turn a little bit, and which is probably healthy for the overall fan base. I'll be honest. Outside of the social media world, most people pull me aside about it and ask, do not want him. It happened at the game, yesterday twice. People who desperately don't want him. So hey,
Graham, come here. I got something to tell you.
Don't let this happen, Graham. Couch. Yeah.
Don't use my name, but
yeah. Yeah. So something like the Big Ten Conference Championship game though is a fair. I said earlier that would be my play. I think that is something you can take away from them, and not prevent them from winning a national title if that's what they're still going to get in, but at least says you don't represent us as our champion.
Adam versus next. Number 1, citizen journalism has run amok. Time for many to realize you're just fans. Stop claiming you have sources. And 2, Sam Leavitt has a pro-level release. Throwing reminds me of Aikman. And 3, although Barron on arrival, still Coach Cap's offensive lines have been underdeveloped.
Yeah, there's no question. I thought he was going to be really effective. They haven't been able to get that. The next person is going to have to deal with that again. And it goes back to the D'Antonio era. It's a hard area to develop, but it just hasn't happened again. The citizen journalists run amok, and you do see people who – look, there are people, though, who are connected to some degree, and you just have to know to what degree when, some people who are, they're connected to either higher-ups at the university or they're connected to donors, which is often more likely. And so they do have some insight, and you just have to, just understand that everybody – the one thing that happens more often to, call them citizen journalists or people who are don't do it for a living, I'll say, is you hear a lot of stuff, and part of the job is deciphering what's real, not reporting everything. What is the objective of the person who's telling it to you? And some people who aren't, who are, quote, citizen journalists do a really good job of this and others don't. And so it's just, but that's with anybody you're listening to. What, you do see sometimes where people are like, this is happening. Who's telling them that and why? And when I'm being told information, you got to make sure you don't get played. Sometimes with this particular coaching search, I think there's some misdirection going on here and there. And so I'm very careful about what I'm willing to put out there because I don't want to be used.
Plus size volleyball dad next. Number one, at this point, I no longer want a young head coach. Give me an experienced coach that will spend his last 5 to 7 years in East Lansing. Signetti, Lance Leopold, Will Fritz. 2, +1 to Graham for warning Prime to not run all of his offensive linemen. He did, and look at what happened. Prime is complaining about needing different players. 3, the MSU basketball loss to Tennessee has me in mid-season form. Looking forward to that loss to Duke and another to Boo Booey. Can't wait to get irrationally upset about midweek January road losses.
It's coming. No, it's going to be a fun season because there will be some games where things don't go great. And they're going to be, what's going to be interesting too is there's so many different components to this team that could have decent games. Like there will be a game where Jeremy Fears is like 12 points, 6 assists, looks amazing, and everybody's like, that guy should start. And then you'll have a game where, A.J. Hogarth, who I think is a real key to this season. I'm actually a column on him running later today and in tomorrow's paper. Not that they can't, like Izzo gave me a really interesting quote about him. He's like, the thing is this year I don't need him the same way. But if we're going to get where we want to go, he makes us much, much, much better when he's at his best. And so, there's just sort of this, there will be games where he's not great and people are frustrated. There'll be games where Malik Hall isn't great, and it's like play more Booker. There's gonna be some of that, and that's gonna be part of the drama. And I think as long as they're winning enough, people will be okay. G.E.
Miller, number one, the only old guy coach MSU should look at is Urban. No Leopold or Clausen, both are almost 60. 2, I'm okay keeping Harlan and Salgado on staff. Secondary has been a bright spot with young talent. Offensive staff has to go.
Yeah, we'll see. A new coach will have his own people, and depending on who it is, they might have relationships with somebody on the staff or not, or they may have a position that they have open that they don't have somebody in mind where that makes sense to keep somebody. Obviously, a guy like Harlan Barnett would have some value in certain ways, and obviously he's been a good secondary coach at times. He knows all these guys. If you're trying to retain a roster, and that's part of the turn, and there are a couple guys, a Harlan Barnett, a Courtney Hawkins, Salgado is an impressive guy when you listen to him talk. There may be people that you're like, I really want to keep that person for the sake of these kids, and I also think they're a good coach.
Matt Venny, number one, none of MSU's scholarship quarterbacks will be on the roster next year. 2, every announcer who uses any variation of the phrase great play call by Jay Johnson needs to have their credentials revoked and spend 70 days in the local county jail. And 3, watching MSU getting calls from the refs is a total mind fuck. They've got a lot of favorable calls and would have lost the game otherwise.
MSU got a lot of favorable calls. I don't know if that was more so than Nebraska or not. They could have lost that game though, and it looked like when they gave up that long touchdown that I thought they might just do it. That number one though by Venny here, the idea that none of MSU scholarships QBs will be on the roster next year is sort of the disaster. In the transfer portal era, if you got a QB opening, you'll get somebody. You'll get somebody who's an okay starter, but you'd much rather at least have one of them back.
Aledo, number one, realistic time frame for the next coach before Thanksgiving. 2, does Dyron Reynolds hold any credibility for the next staff with how his unit has performed? I know underwhelmingly for the most part, but the young guys look pretty good and ready to play.
Yeah, on the defensive line, I don't know. And again, it'll come down to what the next person wants, what their relationships are, there's just no way to know. Realistic time frame for the next head coach. It's possible to break before, like, from what I understand, like a guy like what's his nuts at Wisconsin.
Urban Meyer.
The guy at Wisconsin right now, former
Sam Leavitt.
Fuck
Jerry Jones.
I'm just blanking. I don't know.
Michael Irvin.
Here, as you would say.
Troy Aikman. Larry David.
Just the worst.
Jerry Seinfeld.
Luke Fickle. Thank you. I was struggling there for a minute. But they knew that was going to happen a couple weeks out, and they kept it under wraps. It's possible something gets done with a couple weeks ago, and then it does break slightly earlier, and that wouldn't be ideal. You saw it happen with John L. Smith, famously with his players finding out when on the sidelines and things like that. So it's possible something breaks, and they know ahead of time. They're really going to try to keep this under wraps until the season is over. Now, once that Friday night game is played, and probably most teams are playing that Saturday. But I would guess as early as that Sunday, it'll be a great possibility.
Some dude, number 1, the guy's name is fucking Santa. 2, Graham, the halftime show with the band playing God Bless the USA and the PA announcer doing spoken word on the lyrics was the funniest shit. Please tell me you caught it. 3, what separates Cohen Carr is his nose for the ball. He's just a natural for rebounding. He's literally the perfect college player in this era at MSU, as it will take a year or two to develop the jump shot for the NBA.
I did not see. My mom, who was at the game with a friend, talked about it. She didn't mention. She does not know my affinity for "God Bless the USA" as a song.
Spoken word, though.
Yeah, I don't know.
Wow.
I was not paying a whole lot of attention. Sometimes I do because I really like David Thornton, and I like the band director and the stuff they do. And when they do show, Broadway show stuff, I try to pay attention and things of that near. But Cohen Carr, I agree here because I think sometimes the perfect recruits are guys who are just a little too short to be big-time NBA guys right away. There's something that the NBA doesn't love about them, but they can be great college players. I mean, Cassius Winston is the all-timer, right? Jaden Akins has some of that in him, where if Jaden Akins is 6'6" instead of 6'4", he's an easy 3-and-D guy in the NBA because he can shoot, he can defend at a high level. But at 6'4", they want him to create more of the ball, and they want to see that. So you get him for longer. Cohen Carr is probably that as well. Before he is a complete enough player, he's only 6'5". So even though he can leap out of the gym, that shot's going to have to be there, and you get him for more time. Jeremy Fears, only 6'1", big advantage. Like, recruiting those guys is better than recruiting the guy who's a one-and-doner in a lot of ways, who might not be any better as a college player.
Richard Kane, number 1, Mike Gundy's answer to that ABC stooge asking about the last bedlam should have been, well, since your company has shoved a red-hot poker up our ass and destroyed this great rivalry, you should ask your greedy, depraved bosses to answer to that question. Whatever. 2.
It's a great response. I missed it, though.
Yeah. To a recent hot take from one of the esteemed show producers, winning at football should be the only thing that matters. The majority of people don't care about non-revenue. This epitomizes the moral rot of our society.
So this is part of the. Now, some people don't worry about Urban Meyer as the head coach is in terms of character, and I think that's fine. And I don't have a huge issue with him from that standpoint. I mean, I think there are things he should say, and it's, a tone that should be struck if that were ever to happen. But that was the point of that esteemed show producer being one of our listeners. I do think it should matter. You're talking about, though, the development of young people, setting an example, and you want somebody who's a good person in that role.
Fart Soup, number 1, listening to Graham describe anyone as thick should be illegal.
Fair.
2, pants with button flies should be illegal. Try rocking a piss at the trough, but first you have to take your pants off.
Whoa. Yeah, that's awkward.
Or what if you have one of those like things in the back, like those pajama pants that have the back end cut out of them?
Yeah, I don't
know. The ladies?
Yeah.
What if you just did that and just kind of fruit basketed it like kind of backwards? That would freak people out.
Yeah, I don't want to see that. The trough, there's a code to the trough. You don't want to break the code.
That would end all troughs, though. It'd be great.
Have you ever had pants with a button fly?
Yeah, back in the day.
Yeah,
Back when I was trying to impress the ladies.
Is that what impresses the ladies?
No, I don't know. Well, generally they were, when you had the button fly, they were always like Levi's expensive.
Oh, I see.
Like,
gotcha.
By the way, I'm sorry, but this lady out here, I know this is a podcast, but she's been trying to parallel fucking park for the past half hour, and both of our cars are parked out there, so I keep watching. It's very fucking distracting, but sorry. Dude, I'm not even joking. A half hour this lady's been trying to parallel park. It's unbelievable. People got out of the vehicle even. How hard is it? A couch on fire, number 1. Iowa 0, Northwestern 0 at halftime, and Washington 35, USC 28. The past and the future of the Big Ten football in 2 games. 2, ass. Halftime takes on many football games, especially when the underdogs is leading or close. And 3, nice bounce back weekend for Spartan hockey after that less than stellar Boston College series.
That was a big weekend to go to Ohio State and sweep them. I think start Big Ten play was important because they didn't really measure up on that Boston College series all that well. Yeah. You're right, 0-0 and 35-28, and I mean it is amazing. It's the same sport sometimes. I mean that game was at Wrigley Field, and the funniest thing was like somebody said it was 7-0 in the 4th, and that could have been a baseball sentence.
Get it? Cracker sofa. Number 1, the dichotomy of play in the Big Ten is going to be a cocaine bender, Washington versus USC, and abusing muscle relaxers, Iowa versus Northwestern. And I, for one, am looking forward to the uppers-downers whiplash next year. 2, the way the ref delivered the ruling on the field for Foster's touchdown catch should be the standard. If the same flair would have been used by the ref for the rocket, the stadium would have been burned to the ground that night. I don't know. 3, Couch. Would love to see you follow Brett McMurphy's lead in calling out institutions and their immoral and corrupt journalistic practices that ESPN partakes in with the Blue Wall, Centuries, and the Detroit media.
Well, I mean, Brett should maybe stop making up coaching search stories. You know, I'm sorry. That really, he's one of the 2 culprits, and the language was not unforgivable, but unprofessional. And
unforgivable.
I don't really care that much, but what he's talking about, number 2, is after Montori Foster's touchdown was reviewed, the ref came out and it was dramatic, and he just had this smirk on his face, and he paused and said, "The call stands," or something like that. Anyway, it was a really kind of fun way of delivering it, and although if you're on the other,
he had money on it. That's what I would sound like.
You'd be uncontrollable. Yeah. I don't really care what the review says. This is standing. This is standing. Yeah.
No touchdown. Mr. Neurotic Pants. Number 1, my soldier is standing at attention at the distinct possibility of a 4-8 season. 2, Coach D should donate every cent of his consultancy pay into whatever replaces SD4L. 3, every major coach should have an obligation to assist in the recruiting of his replacement on some level. Just no inside hires. And bonus, Graham would kill it in D3 women's hoops.
Thanks. I think I would be a pretty good Division III women's basketball player.
I hope so. Wait, there's D3 women's basketball?
Of course there's D3 women's basketball.
Really?
You don't think they're playing women's basketball?
I don't know if there should be D3 men's basketball.
They're good players. What are you talking about?
All right.
Yeah, it's
you're saying that you can beat them at 40 fucking plus years of age, out of shape.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I would be, but yeah, I mean, I would be a good low post present shooter guy at the D3 women's hoops level, I think.
It would get me to watch women's D3 hoops, though.
Yeah, I would get myself in shape for that.
Baby 60, baby AK, whatever the fuck. How is Connor Stallions a lone wolf when, number 1, it's been reported the team had a $15,000 budget for the program. 2, multi-million-dollar coach put their performance and reputation on the line by having a $55,000 employee in their ear calling their plays. 3, an actual employee is not present.
Oh, this looks like it was supposed to be one of 2. I apologize. One thing I do want to mention to people is, and a lot of you have already followed through of this, is just to sort of, instead of replying to yourself, just do separate tweets, and I will find them. It's easier for me that way. Elon's changed something up, and now every time I click on it, like I got to go back to the top, and the whole process takes like an extra half hour doing those. So occasionally I'll miss one if you do it the old way. So the question is, how is Connor Stallion is a lone wolf when we don't know what he is? I can't imagine he's 100% a lone wolf. He's obviously a strange, bizarre dude. The more you learn about him, the more you think he's capable of just about anything. Somebody obviously knew something. We just don't know who and where and what. But it's Jim Harbaugh's program, and there's it's the old lack of institutional control. It's like anything. You got to know what's going on in your program. And if somebody is cheating to win games in your program, and you're clearly using him to win games. I mean, he's on the sideline. You're reacting. Your coaches are reacting to what he's saying. That falls on you a little bit.
Hans Jurgen, number 1, Sam Leavitt's cocksure attitude reminds me of Connor Cook. 2, Graham is just a cock. 3, hire Brian Leonard. Hire him now. He can start recruiting now and keep his best players on this team. He can bring the Wisconsin system of recruiting underrated, smart, and physical 2 to 3 star players to MSU. The Wisconsin system worked for decades. It will keep us in every game. And bonus, I kid, Graham, because I care.
Peacock.
Sam Leavitt is, I think, now Connor Cook had a swagger to him that I think Leavitt has to some degree. I think Leavitt's got a better arm than Cook did. What Cook had that was special, and we don't know about Leavitt yet, and I've said this before, is he just could deal with people at his feet, could deal with people hitting his knees, and he could hang in the pocket. And I thought that was going to make him an NFL player. And if he had been less of a bro, I think he might have had an NFL career, because that's a hell of a skill. The problem is when there are only 2 guys on a roster playing quarterback, you know who Tom Brady doesn't want to hang out with? Connor Cook. And that's why that didn't stick.
Imagine being a bro. You're too much of a bro to be on our team. I'm sorry.
That's why Brian Hoyer is stuck around forever. Like, that guy's not a
Brian
bro.
Hoyer, non-bro.
Yeah, non-bro. Hoyer.
Yeah. Jake Hawkins, number 1, happy belated birthday to your grandma, Graham. I'm curious to know where she was on these dates. On these dates, December 7th, 1941, November 22nd, 1963, and September 11th, 2001. Also, what's the difference between the East Coast Portland and Maine and West Coast Portland and Oregon?
Answer that first.
I'm trying. No, I'm good.
Okay.
2, great win for MSU, especially for all the seniors and Harlan Barnett. It still does not excuse the fact that the Big Ten is absolutely terrible. Iowa ends a game with a final score of 10-7. Wisconsin loses to Indiana and Rutgers and pulls off a fumble rooski. Seriously, what the F? 3, it's really frustrating that the Lions didn't make any major moves at the trade deadline to get key pieces like another edge rusher. But what's also frustrating and funny at the same time was Mike Valenti's reaction to the 49ers getting Chase Young.
Yeah, he went after Rico, right? Because Rico's a 49ers fan. I saw a clip of that on social media.
Well, he didn't really go after him.
No, it was sort of to be fun. It was a bit
staged.
Right. To number 1, I think, so thank you for the birthday wishes for Ella Couch.
Can you please ask her?
Well,
why don't you give her a call and ask her where she was?
She might remember 41 more than she remembers yesterday. But some of these she had ties to. And I mean, she's not like direct ties. But December 7th, 41, which is D-Day, like she had... I mean, I have, God, I'm trying to remember. There are people either related to her or friends with her that were at D-Day. My grandfather was in the British Navy, was not there, but he was in World War II. I don't know about Kennedy Assassination Day where she was, but she had been in the U.S. for just about 2 years. They came over in January of '61 from England, and September 11, 2001. Of course, she lives in Westbrook, Maine, which is right near the Portland International Jetport, where the terrorists stayed and began their journey the day of 9/11. So I don't think she had anything to do with it. But as I mentioned, my cousin, her granddaughter, was interviewed by the FBI for being near where those guys came through at Best Buy when she was working the register. So there are ties. There are ties. I don't know what else to say.
Didn't they go to a strip club as well?
I don't know the specifics.
Upper Deck Jerk Guy. Number 1, University of Michigan Ann Arbor is disgusting. Arrogance, victimhood, and hypocrisy personified. 2, Twitter, or X, just shows that opinions are like assholes. Everybody has them, and they all stink. And 3, No Nut November is a stupid thing to even consider.
Yeah, I would go with No Shave November. I don't, that sounds like a good way to get out of shaving.
No Nut November.
Yeah.
I'm already out.
We appreciate.
I need to restart.
We appreciate all of you, and thank you for producing our show and for your hot takes. Good discussion. Enjoy them all, and it means a lot. And thanks for adjusting to early times as we figure out what we're going to do. probably more Monday afternoons. We will we'll get that information out to you into the ether. We appreciate Muskox, and get your Muskox flannels at gomuskox.com. Again, the promo code HOFF, HOFF, for $15 off for Couch and the Rube listeners. Thanks to Midtown Brewing Company. If you're looking for a date night, a place for lunch, brunch on the weekends, trivia Tuesdays, Midtown Brewing Company. Go to midtownbrewing.net. We will be back middle of the week with another show. We'll let you know what time that is. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch and the Rube.